Yeah, my name is Justin Sheehan. Originally from Ireland, which would account for this strange accent. Been living in the Netherlands since 2008. And at this point of time of recording, I've been working as an executive coach for the last 9 years. I primarily work for another university in the Netherlands, a business school, working with their MBAs for 8 years. And for the last year or so, I've been working as a freelancer, working with people going through career changes on their career development and also on their personal development and people in leadership positions. I've been lucky enough to be involved with the Vrije Universiteit now for the last year or so, and been involved in helping them launch their 2 MBA programs. And my involvement now at the moment is providing coaching to their MBA students and executive MBA students throughout their year. And we basically provide coaching services, but also provide some workshops. The coaching is geared around, if we were to segment it, the coaching is geared around career coaching, career development, and also leadership development. And there's overlaps and all of that, but it just depends on the individual's needs there. But yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment. My background before I got into coaching is very diverse. I studied business and economics, was very analytical and logically orientated. Worked in a lot of managerial positions in different industries. And if you look at my CV, I'm somebody who's constantly making career changes. I worked in the retail industry, in the hospitality industry. I worked in financial services, worked in healthcare as well. And the red thread that probably ran through my career was building relationships, whether it be in managerial roles, building relationships with the teams that I was leading, or in sales or business development roles that I was working in, where I was building strong relationships with prospective clients, with suppliers, distributors, and things like that. And coaching was one of those things that I didn't have on my radar at the time. It sort of came along just by chance, but it seemed to fit with my past skill sets, and also the fact that I was able to make so many career changes was helpful. So my background then from that point onwards was working at the Erasmus University here in the Netherlands, working with their MBA students who are primarily internationals who are come over to study a 1-year full-time MBA and then looking to stay in the Netherlands afterwards. So part of my background then and what I was doing with them was really helping them understand, okay, what's going on in your career so far, what's going on with you in relation to the change that you're going through during the course that you're taking, and what does it mean for you going forward. And then so you were reflecting, you were trying to make sense of what's going on in the past, and then you're trying to orientate towards the future. And what that did is just expose me to lots of different industries, different functional domains. The people that I worked with over the years were so diverse from so many different cultures, but also so many different industries, as I mentioned. And now I'm taking that now, we're continuing to work with people who are looking to make career changes, but also working with a lot of these people now who have transitioned into leadership roles, working with people who are owning their own startups, for example, and working more holistically in other areas of people's lives that they're constantly looking to improve, and supporting them through any change that they want to go through. So what the Vrije Universiteit do is they provide the students who are studying there with individual coaching as one factor, and then the other point that they provide is a career development track, a program designed for people that are really focused in on their career. They probably want to make a change. So if you look at the individual coaching perspective, that's very much driven by the students on their needs, tailored towards their goals and working on them on an incremental basis. And they have coaching sessions then at their time frame throughout the year. And that covers, the approach there is coaching in its true essence in relation to just asking questions and helping the student find their own way forward. But it can also change gear to the point where it needs to become more practical, so that if a student finds themselves in an interview process, we can help them with things like interview prep, or we can go back and look at their CV and things like that if it means aspects in relation to how they would like to brand themselves personally in relation to the marketplace. So we like to then provide that full spectrum of services, which is a blend of coaching and advice, if you like. And then in relation to the career development track that's provided, then that's for people that are looking to, because normally what happens is during an MBA, things change internally. People feel like, okay, maybe my current job at the moment doesn't fit with me based on what I've learned about myself during this study and the new information that I've been exposed to. And that can happen, and it happens frequently actually. The track that we provide is helping people to go deeper into understanding more about themselves, understanding their values, which are in a state of flux anyway, normally for a lot of people, and then trying to orientate what that means for them going forward, and if they're going to be proactive in taking steps, or maybe they're going to make some change internally within their organization. But we, if we take a step back, we really like to provide services that's going to support them through whatever change that they feel that they need to go through. Now, there are some students that will go through the academic year and feel like, okay, I don't need any support in relation to making a career change or looking at another industry, but they might need support in relation to, okay, my perception of how I fit into my team at work has changed, and I see my role being differently, and I want to make a subtle change in that way. Okay, so what does that mean in your conversations with your team lead? What does it mean and how you're going to build those strategic networks internally as well? So we're there to support the people as much as we can in relation to that. Well, what has always stood out for me over the years, what the main thing that employers are looking for are strong communication skills. And now times change, and the pandemic has come along and made our style of work different. But bottom line is, if you're a really strong communicator verbally, if you can deliver strong presentations and get your message across, if you can communicate strongly via email, then you're going to be an asset to most companies, and they're going to be interested in you. So that is something that I would encourage all people studying an MBA and people in other domains to really focus in on, and really sharpening their pencil in relation to how they communicate and make sure that they bring across their messages in the right way. I think now with the change that's going on in the world, basic ones is you need to be very flexible and resilient and adapt to the situation. So that means changing your working style, being remote, for example. How do you conduct your meetings in these sort of environments? I think what's also happening now is many people are having lots of different demands being placed upon them. So maybe they're in a matrix organization with different managers and different projects that they're being involved in. So I think when you're looking at in relation to what that means for the individual, it means being able to juggle multiple balls simultaneously, being really good at prioritizing, being able to understand when enough is enough on a certain project, that you're not, because you have other needs and all the rest, but sometimes people get caught up with trying to be over perfect in certain areas. And I think if you're staying up with the pace, because it is frantic, I think the other thing that I'm noticing as well is well-being is a strong factor, and you need to be this resilient person who's being able to handle the demands of modern life and being able to maintain yourself in the right way, because it seems to be a lot of chaos going on at the minute, and most of the people that I've worked with who handle it the best are basically just staying pretty calm and stable throughout that, and just dealing with whatever comes along and dealing well with the unexpected things. So those type of things point back, in my opinion, more to being resilient and being able to cope with difficult circumstances and the chaos that we seem to be inhabiting now in our world. I think those haven't changed a whole lot overall. You still your basic. So technology is a big place where there's a lot of hiring going on. And if you're looking then at the tech companies, the well-known ones, but then you go further in tech and you look at fintech, you look at health tech, agri-tech, how we feed the world is becoming definitely something that's important for more and more MBAs. Finance has always been a domain where a lot of MBAs are already in before they start their studies, and a lot of them stay in afterwards. I don't know anybody who was in had a finance background who made a shift after their MBA. All the finance people tend to stay in finance. And then the world of consulting as well, that's always going to be very interesting for MBAs because it offers so many benefits. It feels often like a continuation of their studies. They get to experiment and be exposed to lots of different industries, so many different stakeholders. So there's rapid development in consulting, and it's also a good thing for people who are not sure where they really want to go further down the line, or if they don't want to narrow themselves to a particular industry and they still want to explore, then they can go, okay, consulting gives them that broad spectrum so that they can really truly see what's out there. But then if you look further now in the impact the pandemic has had, I think Amazon has become more prevalent, even though they were beforehand, but there's definitely more people going into that domain. These e-commerce platforms as well, companies that are geared up towards helping people during the pandemic. There's more of an urgency on digital transformation for companies that haven't taken that step as well. And we've also seen more of an interest in the healthcare domain and the pharmaceutical world. I think more and more MBAs that I'm working with are becoming conscious of the fact of global health challenges that are going on. They're becoming more holistically and broad-minded in their thinking, as opposed to, just let me tap into an industry and into some game and get busy with that. So that's been an interesting shift that I've seen over the years too. Yeah, there's no doubt that it's happening, and I work also with bachelor's and master's students in other universities too, and they're even more so geared up that way. I think, it's hard not to be impacted upon the pressing needs and challenges of the times, and I think a lot of people are looking at it and they feel that they need to contribute in some way to that. They can't be like just bystanders or get involved in something that has no meaning for them. So I think the word impact then has to be unpacked for each of the individuals to really understand what actually impact means for them, because it'll mean different things to different people. So I think it's important for anybody that says, I want to make impact, to really delve into what that means, because often when I've been speaking to people along these lines, they're not even clear for themselves. So there's a lot of areas there to be explored, what that means for the person. What we do then in relation to career services, or what we're doing in relation to the coaching, we're helping them understand what the impact means for them and helping them get a clear idea, because is it just enough to be within an organization that's having a good impact, but even though maybe your role does not feel like it's impactful, perhaps you might feel like you're a cog as part of the greater whole, and for some people that mightn't feel enough, and so that needs to be determined, that needs to be thrashed out so that the individual can figure out, okay, this is what impact means to me. The other aspect then, what we've tried to do and what I've been exposed to over the years is companies that probably fit along those lines. So you've got your basic areas where you would say, these companies are working on the main pressing topics in the world at the moment. And what I try to do then during interactions with students is expose them to those sort of things that I might think, okay, have you heard of this organization? Have you heard of these domains? So just areas to help them further explore. And that simultaneously it simultaneously helps sharpen their thinking about, okay, this is more interesting than this is to me, and for these reasons. So then they can further go in their search there. So ultimately, and it's ultimately, they mightn't get there immediately in their first step from understanding that they want to make an impact, but it's like a process that they need to work through. And that's what we do. It's a good question. So it's in a constant state of evolution, I would hope, and I'm always learning new things, studying and working with mentors and other coaches and all the rest to expose myself to new ways to look at things and different topic areas. I suppose the evolution, if it was to really nail it down in a few areas, I think one of the things that I've really moved away from is trying to give advice to people. I'm really trying to help people to search for their own answers as much as possible and understand what's really important to them. Like, I'm not somebody to be given advice anyway. Everybody has their own path to take, and everybody has to find their own path and what is the best way for themselves. That evolution then that I went through then is really about really letting the person sit with their own questions and their own wrestling with trying to understand certain aspects of themselves and what's important to them. I think you're always learning new things as you go along. I've been really interested in other domains in relation to well-being, for example, and things that are involved in, stress and anxiety and how we're dealing with certain things. Resilience I touched upon before. I've become very focused in on optimal functioning and people who are performing very well and those people that seem to be moving forward in a strong manner despite the difficulties that they're encountering and they're seeing their challenge in a certain way. So I'm trying to learn as much as that from possible and then bringing that into coaching practice with people and helping them to improve themselves in that regard. And that's taken to me in other areas of psychology, fitness, even the nutrition and things like that. So I'm always exploring new fields basically to try and bring into the practice. So the students that I'm working with at the minute at the Vrije Universiteit, most of them, they're already living in the Netherlands and have been living there for a while. We have a lot of internationals there who've moved over. I think for most of them, they're quite happy and content in the Netherlands. But at the same time, what I've seen is when the right opportunity comes along, people are willing to move. The Netherlands is a great place to live and work, and has lots of benefits and lots of opportunities. So it ticks the boxes for a lot of MBAs. What I've seen in the people that I've known for more long term, a lot of the internationals that I've worked with previously, that have maybe been living in a foreign country for 5 years or so, many of them gravitate back home actually. And not all of them, obviously it's a generalization that I make, but a lot of people sort of they garner all the professional experience that they were hoping for, and they go through all this development they were looking for, and they achieve a lot of those goals that they set out to achieve, and then it leaves them at a point, okay, what next? And a lot of them then long for home and long to be around family again and long to bring their knowledge and experience back home to make some impact back at home. So then the calling of how it is in their home country then becomes a bit stronger for a lot of people. So I've seen that happen frequently as we went along. And another aspect that I've seen is some people in foreign countries, they maybe hit a certain ceiling or a plateau. Sometimes it's more difficult to progress into those really senior level positions when you're an expat in a country. And some people then see that and they go back home then to sort of benefit from their local language and their own culture. I don't know if that's something you want to keep in the video because it maybe comes across not great, but it's the truth. What else do I see with them? But if I was to sort of give a recap on it, I think what you see is a lot of people will if they determine that the right opportunity exists somewhere else, depending on their values and their needs at that moment, they will make that move and they will uproot their family. What I've seen is a lot of people who are getting older and more settled and have family and things like that, then they typically want to stay in the one place. They don't want to put their family through that disruption, and that need to go and search out for new experiences in relation to living in a new country diminishes over time, and then they're looking for more stability in their home lives, and as long as there's enough opportunities from a career perspective around them, then they will basically stay put. For prospective students, assessing different MBAs, I think when you look at it, basically speaking, all MBAs are providing the same sort of syllabus and the same sort of course, the curriculum there. So you need to think more broadly about what's important to you in that regard. What I've seen over the years is a lot of people take pleasure from the perspective that you're involved in a diverse class. So think about if that's important to you. Is it really important that you're involved? You have lots of different people from various industries and functional areas to really stretch and stimulate you. The other area that I would suggest people to really look at is you're going to be spending a lot of time in this organization. It's going to become your family over the next 2 years, possibly. And you really need to feel comfortable there. And what I recommend everybody is really go and visit that school, go and meet the people, walk around the corridors and go into the lecture theatres and things like that. I really do believe in sensory experience along those regards to make a good decision. And sometimes I've talked to people that have just made decisions on the university based on, I'm not sure why. It ticked all the boxes, but so do all these other universities. But when I walked into University A, I just felt at home. Certain things just felt right. And I had this experience and that experience. And then they make their decision based on that. And I think there's a lot of merit in that. Now, I don't think, scientifically speaking, it would be given much credence in relation to it's an intuitive experience, but you really have to feel comfortable in the environment that you're going to and enjoy going to there, because it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult to juggle that with your working life and your relationships and your family and all the rest of it. So it's important to think about that. And then the other thing that I tell people to have a think along the lines of, is the university located in an area where you're thinking of staying afterwards for your career? So there is a value to go and study in an MBA in another country. There definitely is. But if you're then not staying in that country afterwards, then that can make it difficult sometimes. So I never really understood the point really of going to study in an MBA in a foreign country and then coming back or going to another country afterwards. Now, yes, there are loads of people that want to have those full experiences in life, but I'm a little bit more prudent and practical. And I would say pick a university in a country that you're hoping to live in and work in afterwards. That would be basically it. But yeah, the main message would be overall find a place that you genuinely feel comfortable with the people. It's like your tribe, your people that you're comfortable to be around and you want to spend time with.